And the latest in new residents of probably a women's prison, transgender butcher admits abducting and sexually abusing a schoolgirl. Andrew Miller lured the young victim to his car while dressed as a woman before repeatedly sexually assaulting her over the next 27 hours at his home. The judge described the crimes as abhorrent and every parent's worst nightmare. And there's Hunter, you say, well, transgender criminal move prison. Here we go. A transgender butcher, when he says butcher, by the way, it doesn't mean they butchered it, like the person literally works as a butcher, has admitted to abducting a schoolgirl from a street in the Scottish borders before locking her inside his bedroom and sexually abusing her. Andrew Miller, also known as Amy George, lured the young victim into his car in February while dressed as a woman. The 53-year-old, who was addressed as a male by the court, appeared via video link to plead guilty at the High Court in Edinburgh on Thursday. First Minister Humza Yousaf told Sky News he cannot say whether Miller will be detained in a women's jail after being sentenced. You're making the same mistake your predecessor made. In fact, no, good. Shh. Yeah, can continue down that line, Humza. This is a gut-wrenching case, heartbreaking. I cannot think of the trauma the victim and the family, in fact, the community, are going through. I can confirm, of course, that Andrew Miller is being held in a male prison, but I cannot say which one, and I cannot go into the details. Asked if he would remain in a male prison, Mr. Yusuf replied, "This is a live case. The sentencing is still to happen, so I can't comment any further." Yeah, you can. You were the Justice Minister for a good number of years. It's very easy to just turn around and go like that. No, absolutely not. Like, you'll know. Even, oh, it's a live case. Well, if you say what prison the person will be going to, that's not going to have any factor on the case. Like, if you say, oh, the person will be going to, like, Belmarsh or Berlin or fucking Perth or blah, 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 like that, wouldn't have any factor on the case at all. But it's definitely going to have a factor on what the public perception of you is, Humza. So, like I said, yeah, continue down that path. Keep going. Keep going. Keep doing that. The court was told the child was walking home when the sex offender, who was a stranger, offered her a lift in his vehicle because she looked freezing. I know I'm not trying to victim blame or anything like that here. I'm definitely not doing that, but Jesus Christ, practice a little bit of stranger danger. But however, women feel a lot more comfortable, like especially kids, they feel a lot more comfortable around women than they do men. Don't get into a man's car. But a woman's car, oh, that's a problem. Okay. Funny story about that, but I'll save it for the end. Miller, who is currently transitioning, confined his victim inside his bedroom before repeatedly sexually assaulting her over the next 27 hours at his home. Oh, is that him? Oh, Jesus Christ, been thumped up. The prosecution described how the child only managed to escape and call 999 when Miller fell asleep. Police described her fear as palpable when she was rescued from Miller's home. The age of the victim and location of the crimes cannot be revealed to protect the victim's identity, which is fine. The local butcher shop he once owned was boarded up by detectives at the time because guarantee people were going to put bricks through the windows. Every parent's worst nightmare. Miller pleaded guilty to 4 charges: abduction, sexual assault, watching pornography in the presence of the child, and possessing 242 indecent images of children. The judge, Lord Arthurson, told Miller his offences represented abhorrent crimes of the utmost deviance and depravity, and were the realisation of every parent's worst nightmare. I'm just going to, but you see, when it comes to school, I'm going to drive my kids to and from school. Don't give a fuck what time of day or whatever it is. I don't give a fuck what time of night it is. Dad, can you come pick me up? Absolutely, I'll be there in seconds. Fuck that. Miller was remanded in custody and will be sentenced on 15th of August. At the time of his arrest, Miller was wearing a bra, women's underwear, tights, and one silicone breast. The other had become dislodged during a struggle. That's not funny. Detective Chief Inspector Brian Byrne said, "Our thoughts today are with the victim and her family, who have shown incredible courage and strength throughout this ordeal. This was a significant investigation, and I would like to thank all of those involved for their professionalism and commitment during what was an extremely challenging inquiry. Andrew Miller has pled guilty to serious offending and will now face the consequences of his actions." There's the car on CCTV. trans prisoners in Scotland. Earlier this year, Scotland paused the movement of any transgender prisoner while it carried out an urgent review of its rules, because one of the things about governments is they just kind of make this shit up as they go along. They don't consider long-term damage or long-term effects. They look for easy, immediate solutions, which will have devastating consequences in the long run. Like communists, it followed a public outcry after Ela Bryson, a transgender double rapist, was initially imprisoned in an all-female prison before being removed to a jail with male inmates. Bryson, a serial sex offender who attacked vulnerable women when she was known as Adam Graham, decided to transition while awaiting trial, which provoked outrage among campaigners and was basically, the straw that brought the camel's back as far as Nicola Sturgeon's career was concerned. Scotland's gender reforms. The Scottish Parliament's Gender Recognition Reform Bill was passed in Holyrood last year, but the government in Westminster announced it was blocking the bill from royal assent and becoming law, the first time the power has been used since devolution nearly 25 years ago. Critics have raised concerns predatory men could obtain a gender recognition certificate in Scotland in order to gain access to single-sex spaces and place women in jeopardy, and those spaces would have to adopt different policies. I say build a unique jail. Just build another jail. Boom. Problem solved. There you are. You go in that jail. There you are. Issue solved. Those in favour of the bill argue it would introduce a simpler and fairer way for trans men and women to be legally recognised as who they are. However, as we have seen several times this year already, it is wide open for abuse, and people are already starting to abuse the system. This person is an absolutely monstrous piece of shit, and, well, I just hope shower time's very, very fun. A little bit of that was a joke. For legal reasons, that's a joke. But I know... Funny story. It's not really a funny story, but basically, driving in the car, and this is the thing is about women don't understand this, but when you're a man, there's certain things publicly that you just can't do. Like, women will go up to kids and go like that, "Oh, look at you, you're so cute, you're so lovely." As a man, you can't do that. You cannot. Like, as a man in public, you're not even allowed to look in the direction of a kid that's not yours. And all that, right? Women will like to go down and just sit in the park. They'll just sit and eat a sandwich and just stare out at the swing sets and watch all the kids playing. As a man, you can't do that. Basically, men go around and go, I realise the situation I'm in kind of makes me look like an absolute fucking creep, so I'm going to leave immediately. And women don't understand it. My wife doesn't understand it, because one night we were driving home. My wife was driving. And we seen this, it was at night, this is 11 o'clock, and it was dark as fuck, so it must have been about autumn or something. And there's this little girl, about fucking 9, wearing bright pink, pajamas, just walking down the street in her slippers. And Sue, pulled up, we were across a big embankment, and we were watching, and Sue was like, she looks about 9 years old, why is she out walking the streets at this time on her own? So we sat there and watched her to make sure she was okay, and she was walking down to the shop, and we were Sue was I don't like that, I need to and then Sue went, "Go over to her and see if she's okay." And I went, "No, no, I'm not going over." I'm walking across the grassy embankment, cutting across fucking about 60 feet. And the tattooed bearded man appeared through the foliage, "Hello, little girl." "Man, are you okay? It's very dark outside." No. I went, "I'm not doing it. You go over and fucking do it." And so went over and checked on her, and it turned out that her mum needed things from the shops and decided to send her daughter in her pyjamas to the shops at 11 o'clock at night, pitch black. Now, that's extremely bad parenting. The women should be fucking ashamed of themselves. But Sue walked her back to the house. Sue went, she was like, "My name's Sue. I'm just going to walk you back to the house to make sure you're okay." Blah blah blah. And everyone, "That's my husband over in the car," etc. etc. Right? But Sue was like, "Go over and say to her," and I was like, "No, as a man, you can't do that." He literally can't do that. That girl would have been perfectly justified to just turn around and start screaming, and then everybody in the street kicks the shit out of me after they run out their houses. Right? That's something that you can't do. But that mother should definitely not have done that. All it would have taken is for some, as we've heard about this happening all over England and a little bit in Scotland, some gentleman in a car to come driving past, and hey ho. There's a lot of attempted child kidnaps happening all over England. Have you noticed that? It actually happened to the granddaughter, attempted to the granddaughter of one of the guys for EastEnders. It's happening a lot all the time, but you're not really seeing it in the news. You only see it on TikTok and Twitter. It's dead strange, isn't it? But yeah, as a man, there are certain things you definitely can't do. But one thing that this is shone a light on is kids won't get in a man's car, because if a man tries to get into his car or his van, you fucking say no and everything. They don't say it about women, though, do they? Kids feel a lot more relaxed around women, or, well, what they perceive to be women. So, like I said, people will find loopholes and ways to abuse the system. Yeah, I think we've just found another one.